OK, well, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves has described events since Kwasi Kwarteng's mini-budget as a British crisis made in Downing Street. And to make things worse, the Chancellor earlier on today, well, the influential think tank warned that he needs to find £62 billion. Bit misleading that, though, people, OK, because actually I suppose it does also say that we could go for growth, but apparently that's a really dirty way of looking at the economy these days. Anyway, to get the UK's finances back under control, we need to find money from somewhere, and over the past 2 hours I've been trying to give Kwarteng some inspiration, you're welcome, Kwasi, about where this money could come from. So I thought, well, could we just slash benefits? Apparently that's evil. I said, well, could we stop the NHS being so overfunded and over-bloated as well? And apparently, well, yes, but we won't do that because it looks awful. So what about foreign aid, OK? This afternoon, Truss said that Britain will continue to stand right behind Ukraine as we continue to provide vital military aid in the fight for freedom. So, should we be cutting back on foreign aid and defence spending as well in order to cover the cost of Kwasi's mini-budget? Joining me now, who better? We've gone right to the very top, OK? This man knows his onions. To give his insights is the defence editor of the Evening Standard. It's Robert Fox. Robert, thank you very much for joining me. Great to have you on the show. Let's start with foreign aid and then work into defence.
Yes.
Would foreign aid, if we just stopped it all, OK, make A, an indentation to the 60 billion we allegedly need to find, and B, be that bad for Britain?
Not much and pretty bad.
OK.
It wouldn't make much difference because I don't think they could shave it down completely, having made such a big thing in this government. We are talking about a 12-year government, and Cameron signed up to the millennial goals, one of the very few members of the UN, 0.7% of GDP, and that's been trimmed back, going on foreign aid. Foreign aid is very valuable because trade follows the flag, and Britain is known for its soft power, its education, and things like that. And that's my answer to the second part of your question. If you cut it back, we would do tremendous amount of damage and we would lose revenue quite quickly in the medium to long term for services, for training. That's where we do quite big military sales. But what's more important is the sustaining of that with training packages and maintenance and so on. And if we go chop, I think, and say, well, you know, offshore Britain, and that's it.
A lot of people raise the points, don't they hear about, I think it was like the Ethiopian Spice Girls or whatever that we give money to, or, you know, India's got a space programme, for example, or bits to China and stuff like this. As people always hear those things, I mean, Pakistan, for example, there are serious question marks as to where that aid money actually ends up.
And it might have gone into their nuclear programme.
It might have gone into their nuclear programme, or potentially even terrorist groups as well. So people look at that and think, well, hang on, what's Britain really getting out of foreign aid?
Well, it's getting a lot, but not those things.
Yeah.
And you're quite right. And I think that this is ministerial narrow-mindedness. And I'm not making a party political point. It's on both sides. That they look, if we build this strategic airport in Tanzania, which was another thing, a near scandal for military purposes, and it was absolutely no good. And it's the sustaining of aid, and it's the sort of thing that isn't very glamorous, but actually works, which is microfinance, particularly in developing areas where you get influence, where you build things up, where you get educational standards, you raise living standards, and you get more demand. We're talking about growth, aren't we?
Yep.
It is a bet on medium to long-term growth. And this is a very difficult conundrum, riddle, to manage, because what you get in the ministries, from my experience, sorry to be boring about
it. No, you're not boring at all.
It's and it's an old man talking, I'll be shot down. You get people who've learnt, we've heard a lot about orthodoxies, but orthodoxies in development policies at various schools, in postgraduate schools and so on, and boy, they're as susceptible to fashion as anything else in the world. 1 year, this is good, the other year that this is bad. No, we shouldn't be spending on this because they might be influencing a terrorist group. You flagged up very well India, Pakistan, and we just want to be in there for trade. But I agree, what requires a lot of scrutiny is exactly what a lot of it has gone on.
So it's not foreign aid itself, it's potentially where we've been spending...
It's the targeting,
because
absolutely.
Right now, if I was struggling to heat my own home, for example, or if I was struggling to put food on the table, although anyone who's looked at me will notice I'm not struggling to put food on the table whatsoever, and I was looking at the fact that, you know, maybe some of this money that we're spending is going to India, which has got a space programme. I'd be miffed.
It's got an intelligentsia. It's a fast-developing economy. It's chaotic, but it's very, very important. And we haven't paid enough attention to India, because India is going to be in the future at least as important, looking over 50 years. And I certainly won't be around for most of that. If
I think you will.
Is that India is going to be as important as China. And you're absolutely right. It's the focusing of it. Where I sound a bit like mistrust, and I have a certain amount of sympathy, you come across these beliefs, these orthodoxies in the ministries. Oh, you can't say this. Oh, you can't say that. And the areas you've got me in here to talk about are particularly strong in, I think, at times, false flag or orthodoxies: defence, security, overseas aid and soft power.
Talk to me now a bit about defence. Again, we're looking at areas here, if you're just joining us, where we think we could save Britain a bit of money, given the fact that, rather misleadingly, this report has come out to say that we've got this £60-odd billion black hole. Well, apparently we're not able to go full throttle for a massive growth agenda, so we're going to have to find this from somewhere else, right? We're now going to talk a bit about defence. At this particular moment in time, can we save money on our defence budget?
Yes, you can and you can't. I'm sorry to be really difficult. I must be driving the audience mad with this. But you can and you can't. Yeah, there's a lot of mess in defence, and I hope we can talk about that in detail. They've been told operationally, current spending, that they must think of saving at least £2 billion, possibly more, from the current defence budget of around £43 billion. Meanwhile, we're pledged to support Ukraine, and so far in Ukraine we've given £2.3 billion, and mistrust, as we know, for very important reasons, thinks part of solidarity and the security of our neighbourhood, the wider neighbourhood, we've got to go on supporting Ukraine. Quite right. How are you going to say we're going to go on putting the equivalent of £2 billion into Ukraine, cutting £2 billion out of your defence programme, and being worried about the welfare budget? It is politically, it's a difficult, if not impossible, sell, and I would grant you that. But defence really does need scrutiny.
Yeah.
And it needs scrutiny in a way that neither of the two leading political parties dare confront it.
Well, go on, dare to, quickly. If you can.
I'll give you a receipt, very quickly.
OK, come on.
It's so chaotic, the aspirations. We had Global Britain, we had an integrated review, they're going to do another one, saying more of the same. You can't do more of the same. They shouldn't be given much more money, but they should make the money that they have got work better. That's the big ask. You cannot ask, they're so institutionalised, either the civil service or the armed services, to do that. What you need to do, I would do, number one, I would have an emergency inquiry operating behind closed doors, not in secrecy, because at different points they must disclose. I'd have an Inspector General of Security and the Armed Forces, not just the Armed Forces, but security. And I would have a committee of 4 or 5, of which I would be the secretary, which delivers within 2.5 months. This is what we need to do. This is what we can afford to do. This is what we've messed up on. And this is how we go about from getting A, not to B, but to D, E and F. And do you know what the real test of that has been? Ukraine. Ukraine has shown why so much of our armed services and our posture, as they call it, is not fit for purpose.
Look, thank you very much for your time. It's fantastic to have you on the show. I wish we could talk all day about both of those issues as we try to desperately save Britain a bit of cash, whether it's with foreign aid or whether it's with defence. It's all we've got time for today, but it won't be the last time I have you on, that's for sure. That is the defence editor of the Evening Standard, the legendary Robert Fox. Grief, what do you make of that, people? GBViews at gbnews.uk.